What's up, everybody? Plate the Scholar of Magic here. Happy Sunday, everybody. I have an awesome deck tech for you today. I did want to kind of just announce, though, just to kind of remind you guys of the sweet promotion we have at 500 subscribers. Simply comment on this video, you will be eligible, and we are giving away this $200 Barlthier and Fran vehicle deck from Final Fantasy. So I think you're just gonna kind of absolutely love this. I didn't skimp out on any of the vehicles, so you're gonna get all the really sweet ones here. Overall, just a really cool deck. You get to beat like your friends up with these really cool battle cruisers and stuff. So this will be at the 500 subs. We're fastly approaching that. We're getting like subscribers every day. So if you guys like this video, I'll also post this in short form. This really short clip here about all these sweet cards, you know. And it's just something to give away to you guys, just to kind of know that I'm appreciating you guys engaging with my content, and that, you know, I like to share these kind of decks with you, share my ideas with you, and you can kind of share those with your friends and have fun with them. And, you know, it's just kind of a communal thing, right? So this is going to be a really sweet giveaway, guys. This is a really cool deck, really great for your casual pods. It just has a very, very manageable mana base, which kind of kept the cost low, and I didn't really take any liberties with the cards themselves. I added all the really sweet, you know, nice cards themselves, and kind of made sure that the land base was really what kind of kept the cost low. So that's what I'm kind of doing with my decks now. And you're going to be seeing this with this also the deck that I'm going to be presenting today, which is also kind of a more budgety version. It's only like $120. So it's just a really strong deck, and it's just really affordable. So that's kind of my ideas now moving forward for these deck techs. Some decks will necessitate a little bit better of a mana base, but that's just kind of the way it is. But overall, some of these decks are just really easy. I notice, especially in green-red, you can probably get away with most, like, you know, mana base is pretty easy. So the commander we're doing today is Illuna, Apex of Wishes. This is a 5-costed commander in the teamer colors, green, blue, and red, 5 total. Legendary creature, beast, elemental, dinosaur. Mutate, 3 generic, hybrid mana, red or green. So you can play red or green for that instance, and then 2 blue. So that's really what we want to take advantage is the mutate aspect of this card from the command zone. So basically what you want to do is, in this particular deck, you're not going to want to play too many permanents at all. You're going to want to just play a bunch of non-creature spells and non-permanent spells in general. You would want to mutate Illuna over a token, like basically what a token is it's basically, it could be like creature form, it could be like mana base, like in treasures, but in this manner, we want to create creature tokens, and they're not like associated with a card, they're just produced by a card, and that card usually goes to the graveyard. So in that manner, you're going to mutate Illuna over that particular token, that creature token, and Illuna will then see that, and when it successfully mutates, whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Put that card on the battlefield or into your hand. So there's some really nice cards that kind of illustrate this kind of, what is a token? Like, how do I create these tokens, and how do I achieve this like ability of, you know, bringing these permanents onto the battlefield, like these really strong permanents from my deck. So essentially, there's some new cards from Final Fantasy that do this like kind of in spades. And for instance, like a Lindblum is perfect for this. So a 2 generic, 1 red, instant adventure, create a 0/1 wizard creature token with, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals 1 damage to each opponent. So that will, at instant speed, create that 0/1 wizard creature token, and that would meet the requisite. So for instance, if we did this on turn 5, like at instant speed, and put a 0/1 onto the battlefield, and then on our turn 6, we had 6 mana available, and we meet the mutate cost, we would mutate the Illuna right over that 0/1, and if it was successful, we would start skimming off the top of our library until we hit a permanent. Some of those permanents that we can get into, and they're kind of like what I call the big 3, you can get into one with a multiverse, which will let you freely cast a spell on each of your turns from your hand. You can also Also casts a spell from the top of your library too without paying its mana cost. So it's either from your hand or from the top of your library. You can do that once a turn. You can also play cards in general from the top of your library as well. Really cool card. You could get into an Ulamog, which would be really fun. And what's really interesting about the verbiage for Ulamog and just the rules in general is if you put this onto the battlefield from exile, it will actually see itself. So as Illuna basically, puts this onto the battlefield, this will become the 17/17 with an based on, it'll have annihilator 10 based on the 10 counters on it. So it will see itself in exile and it'll become a 17/17. So a really cool interaction there for Illuna. That's what kind of made this deck kind of really fun. These cards are the cards that take predominantly the most value out of the deck in general. Like the Ulamog, I think, is like a $30 card, and it's basically a quarter of the deck's costs. But other than that, you're kind of swimming in just sheer awesomeness of this really cool budgety deck. And then you have Omniscience here. And Omniscience is also just a really amazing card to, get into the top, from your library. And this just lets you freely cast spells from your hand. So these are very powerful cards. These are the 3 permanents that we play in the deck. So how this would go, you're basically simply creating like a token here, mutating from your command zone onto it successfully. We're going to be basically doing a slot machine here, and you're going to either hit an Omniscience, an Ulamog, or a one with a multiverse. As long as neither of these are in your hand, you're going to hit one of these cards. So that's really awesome value and really fun deck in general. I would say that it's like a deck to lose your friends on, so to speak. Because you have, like, if you get into an Ulamog, that's just going to be bad news for one of your opponents really fast. This thing's just going to swing on them in an earlier turn cycle and take out all their permanents at once. So pretty brutal stuff there overall. Let's kind of get into the other sweet Final Fantasy cards here in general. So you have Xenarcan here, and this one is just an amazing card. This is going in most of my decks, I'd say, in general. I know people are really favoring it for their monocolored green decks now in Standard. It's basically just a one of in all their decks, and I would really encourage you, if you're not playing this in your monocolored decks now, that you need to find Xenarcan and put it into your deck kind of immediately, because this is a very strong card, and it's very valuable. Even in your EDH decks, like your Sousa decks, I saw Cobra Go Blue was rocking a Xenarcan in his Sousa deck, so that makes sense. And it's nice to see, like, players of that caliber kind of putting this card in here, because I bought 37 of them. And I got them for very cheap. So it's kind of like one of those cards I'm like, is it going to go up to a couple dollars? The collectability of Final Fantasy, the fact that it's decent, for 6 mana, I can make this really nice 7/7 token. Usually that's what it's going to be. If you have 6 lands on the battlefield, it'll enter as a 6/6, and then it get a +1, or it'll be a 1/1. It'll get +1 for each land you control. So usually it comes on the battlefield as a 7/7, and then later you can play as an adventure side for a green. That's fantastic. I really enjoy this one a lot. I think it's fantastic. One of the better ones I've seen in a while. And once again, this allows us to not play permanent creatures in our deck, because when we siphon off of our deck with the trigger from Illuna, we don't want to hit like other permanents, right? We want to make our creatures through lands. We want to make them through sorceries and instants. That's kind of like our kind of bread and butter. Esper Origins is also that really interesting card. It's not too great just to cast. It's just like a Surveil 2, gain 2 life, but it's really that flashback. If you can get this into your graveyard, it's really nice value. So for 4 mana, you get from your graveyard. If you cast it from the graveyard, you get a 4/4, which is really nice. And once again, this gets through our having permanents in our deck other than the Omniscience, one with multiverse, because it's just a sorcery. It only becomes this enchantment creature on the backside. So really interesting. Once again, you could mutate onto the summon Esper Maduin. I did watch a short on mutate. And for instance, if we were to mutate onto the Esper Maduin, say on like chapter 1, then this saga on the backside would be frozen at chapter 1, and it would stay. There would be no more movement. Similarly, if it was on chapter 2, it would stick on chapter 2. So you could just keep that on the battlefield just like so. But interesting enough, yeah, you can just mutate on here. It's really interesting. Like, say, for instance, we have like a Faithless Looting, and this would be really nice acceleration right into a Illuna, because you would have this like on like perhaps turn 3, you know, with like if you had some ramp to go along with it, right? And then basically what you could do is you could just go ahead and mutate right onto this on chapter 2, which is crazy. And then you would have this very fast. And that would be very good. That'd be very hard for your opponents to keep up with, right? So there's Esper Origins. That's another fantastic card from Final Fantasy. So we got these nice ones here from Final Fantasy. They're just all fantastic for Illuna. Highly recommend them for your Illuna Apex of Wishes deck. All right. So especially if you're going about it this way, the nasty way. So again, here's our 3 really nasty cards, right? So they're just all firing off on all cylinders. They unlock our deck and they just make it go burr. Okay, so now let's kind of just get into this little schmancy deck tech here and kind of just go over some of the key features of it. I do feel like there's in some opportunities, like if, you know, of course your opponents are going to play removal. So I think it's okay to have like some cards that kind of, you know, get back things. And these are important even in a budget sense. Like, I don't think you really want to be like, you know, just really jamming, you know, all the basics in there. You're going to want some sort of tech cards, right? And then there's this is a good tech card. It's pricey. It's like $5, but it could be a land and it can also fetch a card back from your graveyard to your hand. So that's a good option. I feel like it's worth it, right? You know, if one of our things gets removed, we can validate a recovery it back to our hand. Sounds like a good plan. Brainstorm is one of the more interesting cards in here. I'd say it's one of the more cheating cards. And why I say that is because, for instance, if you have an Ulamog in your hand, right, it might not look so good, but if we can like somehow get a hold of a Brainstorm, what we can do is we can, you know, basically brainstorm, and then we can basically put Ulamog back in our library right on the top. And if we're ready to mutate, then we're ensuring ourselves an Ulamog, and that kind of siphons ourselves up and sets us up to know what we're going to get off our mutate. So that's a really cool interaction, and we can do that at instant speed too. So Brainstorm is also a really nasty card for this deck. Now let's get into the ways we create creatures without playing creature permanent cards or cards that have creature in their subtype. And permanents in general, like enchantments and artifacts. So you're going to see a lot of instants and sorceries. You're going to see lots of lands that create creature tokens. So Colony Garden is that card that creates a token. It comes into play battlefield tap, but it will create that 0/1 green plant creature token. And that's fantastic, and it can add mana later. You have Murex here. This will actually fix your mana on a particular turn cycle, which is nice. In addition, it can also create these Phyrexian artifact creature tokens at instant speed for 3 and a tap. So we just love that. It just kind of gives us like that other option, like for creating tokens, having a land on the battlefield. These are my favorite. Is like these cards are just kind of my favorite overall. Is like these lands that can become creatures or lands that will create creature tokens. Those are my favorite things about the deck. I think they're really clever and kind of fun. So here's a Lair of Hydra. This can also just become a creature for that green, for a single green, and I believe 1. You have to have at least to become a 1/1. So for 2 mana, this will animate as a creature. Otherwise, you can just beat down with it. Den of the Bugbear similarly will become a 3/2 for 3 generic and 1 red, and then when it attacks, we'll create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. So if we have an open opponent, we can keep that 1/1 token on the battlefield, and that would be nice. Otherwise, we can just mutate onto the den itself. So Faceless Haven is one of the more interesting ones, right? Because if we go snow, then we can have access to another man land, and that's great, and that's easy. We are in no rush with this deck for the most part. We can play snow lands, we can play all the snow-covered dual lands, and we can animate a Faceless Haven, and we can go ahead and mutate on that as well, and that's fine. Here's a Notvold Slumber Mound. Once again, this can just become a creature. It could destroy a target opponent's land. It could just be like a nasty land in general. So love to see it. You can do all that at instant speed too, so that's really nice as well. Now, Other than Illuna, there's also some other ways to kind of get and exchange things for our permanents in our deck. Illuna is not the only option we have. We also have cards like Indomitable Creativity. I'd have to say, guys, when I was first playing Magic, this was in the meta, and it was nasty. It was not fun to play against. I felt very bullied upon going against creativity decks. I felt like it was just extremely fast for, and I think that's when I was starting to dabble into Historic for the first time. I was like, this is not a very friendly environment. And everybody was playing this Indomitable Creativity and Transmogrify stuff. And it was just kind of beyond my, conceptual, Magic skill set at that time. But what you do need to know about this card is it's extremely strong. Basically, if you have 2 permanents on the battlefield for 5 mana total, you could sacrifice those permanents like a creature and, say, for instance, an artifact. You can do any combination of that. You can do X up to 4 if you have, 4 creatures or 4 artifacts on the battlefield. You have to destroy them, and you have to add a mana for each time for each instance of destroying that thing. So even the Indomitable Creativity for 1X and 3 red. We can exchange one of our creatures, like for instance, one of our Colony Garden tokens here. And then that will summon up one of these 3 permanents right onto the battlefield. So that's kind of the juice here. That's kind of what you're getting into. You're basically skipping a 10 mana play in favor of a 4 mana play and accelerating out into these powerful plays sooner than later. Really strong card. Really enjoy that one. Obviously, Transmogrify does some similarly, just for creatures though. And you'll reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. This one actually I think gets right into the Ulamog, right? Exile target creature. That creature's controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. Yeah. So this one in particular, you're going to want to make sure that the Ulamog is in your library for this one. So that will go right to Ulamog, and that's really nasty, right? Okay, now here is our tokens. This will just basically create all our tokens and enable Illuna to kind of get into our stuff. So this one, Rouse Reinforcements, will create 2 elemental creature tokens. I think it's important to create multiple tokens too, just to have options, right? Because sometimes things will get removed. It's better to have 2 on the battlefield than just 1. Dragon Fodder will also just create 2 red goblin creature tokens. Krenko's Command, create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Malevolent Rumble is probably one of your better ones because it will create a token. It'll also ramp you in some degree, right? And it'll also build your graveyard. So we do like the Rumble a lot. It's one of my favorite ones here. Glimpse of Possible also just really busted. You get to look at some cards. You can create more tokens onto the battlefield, creature tokens. They can be sacrificed for colorless. This one's really strong. This one can get you into your Illuna really fast. So you can see just creating multiple tokens that actually create mana for the instance with the Rumble and the Glimpse are really strong. This is one of my favorite ones from Lord of the Rings, kind of goes under the radar. But this one will actually create a token with counters on it. So when Illuna does mutate on the top of it, it'll actually be an 8/8 flying trample. So because it'll have counters, the card below it will have the creature token will have counters on it, and also accelerate you by creating a treasure token. It's one of my favorite cards. These kind of cards are invaluable. They accelerate you with mana. They create a creature token. They're phenomenal. Faebloom Trick is a really cool one because it can go at instant speed, and you can actually tap some creatures down. Or tap a creature that an opponent controls. Fantastic. Here's Unfathomable Truths. So this is a 4 generic, 1 blue, devoid, draw 3 cards and create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature, add generic mana. This one is nasty because you actually get to draw off of it at instant speed, and you get to create a colorless Eldrazi token. So it really sets you up for a nice mutate and just action in general. It's a great card with your Omniscience. It's going to get you into some more cards. It just works so well with all the things that we're doing. It's just a lovely common from Modern Horizons. Burn Down the House, similarly, can be that card that kind of just dictates the board. It won't kill our commander. it can also create tokens. So you just love to see it. Just such a multifaceted card for us. Solve the equation. This can get into like, it might fish you like that brainstorm. It could fish you that transmogrify. It could fish you that indomitable creativity. It can find you those things you need. And these cards are all just very cheap in general. This one's like $1.67. All the cards that I'm showing you are like dirt cheap. So this deck is like costs like nothing to make. It's so cool. And that's what's nice about it. I think it even fits into a bracket too, if you could believe that. It's a really nasty deck, I'd say, for a bracket 2 deck, but it doesn't have like, your traditional kind of tutors or anything. It just has these, very unsuspecting cards, but I think it has that 2-card combo that it's not like realized. So maybe that's why it finds itself there. I'd say it's kind of optimized, to be honest, at least a bracket 3. What do you guys think? Faithless Looting. This card is just going to be that nice one that's going to be able to exchange cards in your hand into your graveyard. Just kind of gives you some looks at things. Really good with our Mizzet's Masteries. Just kind of keeps the gasoline flowing. Expressive Iteration, just value Palooza. Look at some cards from the top. 3 cards, 1 to play for that turn, 1 into your hand. Fantastic. Prismara Command, you love to see it. Ramps us. We just love ramp. We love to create those one-of treasures to accelerate us. We love to like kind of get offensive, maybe destroy like an artifact, for instance. There's so many modes on this thing. It's just crazy. You can take out things, you can deal damage to creatures, you can draw. It's just a perfect card, really. Seize the Spoils. This one was just going to let us discard a single card. In exchange, we draw 2 cards and create a treasure token at sorcery speed. Fantastic. Windfall. This will also just let us kind of siphon through, like if we have a really hot start, we can basically windfall off of our omniscience and really kind of keep the juice flowing, as you would say. Really nasty kind of risk reward card, as we'll be fueling up probably some opponents' hands as well, but we're just banking on that, we're going to be able to unload our hand when we achieve our combo and keep that gasoline going and kind of overwhelm our opponents. Unexpected Windfall is that really nice, basically discard a card at instant speed, draw 2 cards, create 2 treasure tokens. Fantastic. Big Score. This was similarly for only 1 red mana instead of 2 at instant speed. Does the same thing. Discard a card. You'll draw 2 cards and create 2 treasure tokens. Fantastic. Momentous Fall. This is like the kind of the super tech. So it's like, well, what happens if I want to like mutate again? Well, we can do that. There's ways to do that. And basically it's with Kazul's Fury and Momentous Fall. And we have a big 6/6 here, that's going to be a big creature. So in some circumstances, what we can do is we can go ahead and Momentous Fall our Illuna and draw a lot of cards and have it go back to the command zone. And then we can start mutating again. It will cost more, of course, but it's just a nice option to kind of keep that available. So as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, you draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, then you gain life equal to its toughness. So that's a nice one. Here's Mizzet's Mastery. So this one is just going to take advantage of our graveyard. It's going to let us get a single instance of an instant or sorcery in there. And if we overload it for 5 generic, 1 red, 1 red, 1 red, for 8 total, then we can cast we may cast any number of instants or sorceries from a graveyard at that time for that low cost of 8. What a fantastic card. If you've been Mizzet Mastery before, it's just crazy. Escape to the Wilds. This is just a nice gas up. Like, it can be a nice option that maybe you're at the 5 spot. You're not quite at Illuna yet, but you're ready to get some cards and look at some cards. This could be definitely like a sweet one to give it a go. You can go ahead and play your additional land for that turn. It's just like a nice option, I would say, overall. Here's Overflowing Insight. This is the target player draws 7 cards. Fantastic. We just love to draw cards, especially with Omniscience on the battlefield. We'll just take our 7. Even our one with the multiverse, we'll take our 7 and we'll just take it to the bank. And we have enough ramp to just freely cast it too. Dig Through Time is just going to love to see us build up that graveyard like we have been, like with our Faithless Lootings and such, our Unexpected Windfalls. Those cards in general will just let us like enable this and, get it off sooner than later. Otherwise, we can just cast it with Omniscience, and that's fine too. So, yeah, I just love this option here as a nice card draw spell. Very fantastic. Delve. Similarly, Treasure Cruise, you know, can remove cards from our graveyard to help cast this. Otherwise, it's just a nice draw spell. So it's going to be great. Magma Opus. This is a nice little instant speed. It can ramp us in some circumstances, It can accelerate us by that, discard Magma Opus, create a treasure token. So that's always an option if we're like really, really firing, and maybe we haven't Mizzet's Mastery and we're just totally fine with it going to our graveyard. It's totally fine. Otherwise, we can just like juice this up, maybe freely cast it with one of our enablers, and we're all set. And you're going to get some damage. You're going to draw some cards. You're going to get a token. You tap some permanents down. Seems good. Galvanic Iteration. That's the card, right, guys? Kind of like glues the deck together. Kind of gives us a little bit of an edge. You need this in your deck, I'd say, for these Izzet colors to kind of govern the board a little bit in circumstances, really outvalue your opponents by doubling up on your instants or sorceries, doubling up on your nice, efficient removal. Jim seems like a nice option to just have in your back burner, and you can flash it back for a cheap cost. Definitely the premium for that. Here's your Strike It Rich, and this is just going to accelerate you. It's going to give you that treasure token. Very good for creativity, to have that treasure on board if you're looking to sacrifice a treasure in that manner or destroy it. And then it can just accelerate us faster than Illuna. We can flash it back and get more value. Here's our ramp package. We just have cards that will fetch up land cards in general, put them right on the battlefield. So we have Farseek, Nature's Lore. These are just all those 2-mana efficient cards that just fetch up lands from our libraries and just put them right on the battlefield. 3 visits, fantastic. Growth Spiral has the option to draw us card at instant speed, and then we may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Fantastic. Planner Genesis as well. Look at these are all at instant speed. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't put a card from among them on your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. Cultivate. This is just that really nice, We're kind of a tanky deck, so we can do this. We can play like the Cultivates. We're just trying to get to our 6-mana commander here, basically. So you have to see this as like a 6-mana commander, which is it's a heavy cost, and you have to put it onto a token. So we have to work for it a little bit. It's not like we're just going to be given it. So we have to play these, these cards that are going to put some additional lands on the battlefield, keep our land drops going. We really need like Cultivates. Kodama's Reach will also help us get there as well. Now, we also want to basically protect our commander in certain circumstances, even like our Ulamog once we get it onto the battlefield. So Slip Out the Back seems very appropriate. March of the Swirling Mist can also do this as well, could protect our board. It can also remove threats from our opponent's boards as well. Phantom Interference is cool because it can actually create a token as well. For that spree cost, for 3 generic, you can create a spirit creature token. You can additionally, by attacking it on another one, you can just be versatile and have a counter spell available. Really cool card. Strict Serenade. Yeah, just another really cool, kind of interactive spell for our opponents. Can just really, counter their commander. Kind of a nasty one. Similarly, Swan Song can just, be that catch-all for your enchantment, instants, or sorcery spells, and then their creator creates a 2/2. What's so interesting is when the opponents will counter one of my spells with a Swan Song and give me a token, and that's really interesting in those circumstances. Like, oh, thanks for that sweet token that I can mutate onto. An offer you can't refuse. That is a really sweet, just one mana instance that will just basically counter any non-creature spell, and then its controller will create 2 treasure tokens. Most of the time, you're very happy about this card. I'd say a lot of the time. Wash Away, just really nasty against your opponent's cards. Can just be a hard counter too, so you just kind of love to see it. It's very multifaceted, right? So, man, these cards are so nasty sometimes. So yeah, you could counter a spell that wasn't cast from its owner's hand for 1 blue. So that's your commanders. And then just for the cleave, you can also just pay 1 generic 2 blue, and it's just a counter spell for anything. Really nasty one. Delay is also just like a really nasty kind of just slows down your opponents for a couple turns on one of their spells. I like the delay. It just kind of slows them down significantly. Like, just kind of lets us set up. Jawari is that beautiful counterspell that's also a land as well, can act as a land. You love to see it. Counter target spell unless it's in controller pays 1. That's from Zendikar. Here's Arcane Denial. This will actually be a hard counter. In this instance, the opponent who you countered will draw 2 cards at their next turn's upkeep, whereas you will draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep as well. So that's really interesting stuff. I think it's interesting. Very interesting card. I've come to warm up to it. Wild Rose Rebellion, counterspell, and look at the Final Fantasy. There it is, guys. Beautiful. 2 blue, counter target spell. Flare of Denial. This is also just another interesting way to get Illuna off the board if you want to start mutating it again and your opponents, aren't doing anything about it. This would be a way if you really wanted to, like, if you needed to in a pinch, you can, for instance, let's imagine that you get your Ulamog and your Illuna on the battlefield at once, right? You're going to be the threat. But if you have a Flare of Denial available, all of a sudden you can just go ahead and sacrifice your Illuna, counter that target spell, because Illuna is a blue permanent and you are good, right? You're probably going to be more good than not. So we love that. We love that kind of insurance, right? Here's Commit. This one is just one that will actually put away a spell, put target spell or non-land permanent onto its owner's library, second from the top. Kind of a nasty one. It kind of buries them and makes them draw it again. And then in memory, you can actually have everybody shuffle and everybody will draw 7 cards. So yeah, that would be from your graveyard. So that's really interesting, huh, guys? Especially when we're in like our omniscience mode and we're just say, yeah, go ahead. Let's give me cards so I can start freely casting things. Sublime Epiphany is that really nasty, just, counter spell. You can just see how valuable these are. They get so much more valuable when you can freely cast them too. Counter target spell, counter target artifact activator trigger ability, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. Target player draws a card. So yeah, just a really kind of a lot of interesting options there in general. So we just like to see it. Rapid hybridization. For 1 blue, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. That creature's controller creates a 3/3 green frog lizard creature token. Yikes. Really nasty card there, huh, guys? At instant speed. You have your lightning bolt here, 3 damage to any target for red. Vandal Blast to destroy an artifact for 1 red, or overload it to destroy all artifacts our opponents control. You love that. Beast Within, just to get into our opponents, any of their permanents, just destroy target permanent, could be lands too. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token, really premium removal, game-winning card. Blasphemous Act, also a game-winning card, will slow down your opponents, and you're just saying to them that I'm going to outvalue you. Also, oddly enough, our 17/17 Ulamog will not be affected by Blasphemous Act, which is really nice. Kuzul's Fury. This will just also let us throw something at an opponent's face. It could be an Illuna, it could be an Ulamog, whatever we need there to kind of get over the finish line. Just a really good option just for Illuna in general, just to kind of reset her and put her back into the command zone. And now we're just kind of getting into the land suite here. So we're just going to just, swim through this real quick. And this is just like all your, snow lands for our Faithless Haven. We just have like our pain lands. These are just very cheap cards. They're very affordable. They do the trick. Exotic Orchard. We have our snow lands here. And then you're going to have a combination, even a Hall of Storm Giants I thought was a cool inclusion, just to kind of have another threat on the battlefield that was a creature. Probably not going to mutate onto this, but it's still cool. And then you're going to have like your reveal lands here, reveal a mountain or a forest card. Those are nice duels to have. You can have your, those are also your Frostboil Snars. You can have your fast lands here, like your Copperline Gorges. Those are very affordable. And then you can also have your check lands. So Sulphur Falls enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island or mountain. So these are all very good options for your budget mana base. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this deck tech. Let me know what cards you like to see, maybe cards that maybe you'd like to see maybe exchanged. I'm always up for, kind of ideas. So if you see anything in this that maybe stands out. But I do like just the 3 permanents. I am very fond of just these 3 in general. But I'm always, like I said, just let me know what you guys are rocking. I'm always kind of interested. But this is a really nasty deck, and like I said, it's like just like $120. It's really nothing. It's like compared to like some of the other things you can do in Magic, and I really would highly recommend you guys to like when you're going out and like going to your LGS, and you're gonna see a lot of really fancy dancy cards. You're gonna see like the fetch lands and stuff. Like fetch lands are cool. I'd say they're really necessary for like more like your 5-color decks. But other than that, you could probably even get along. Like if you really spent time with it, you could probably just budget base like most of your decks. And some decks are just going to really love fetch lands. Like maybe you have like for instance, like a Taval Arbiter of Virtue that loves to see cards go to the graveyard, or anything that like take advantage of like cards going to the graveyard. For delving or flashbacking or escaping. You might have decks like that, but overall, I really have come, kind of fond of just these, instances of budget builds, and they work out so nicely, and it just keeps your costs low, and it makes everything kind of better. I'll be honest, like I was just like fishing out like all these fetch lands from this as my original build. And it's just like, whoa, I just added like a bunch of value. I could just like, take this to my LGS and kind of bank it over there, for like newer stuff, newer product. Cause I really just don't really need all these things. So that was a Luna, and that was my little spiel, but I hope you're doing well today, guys. Take it easy. Bye-bye.